Hi, my name is Danielle Patton. I'm the founder of Carpool. We help parents find, manage, and organize rides for their kids within a high-trust parent community. So we have a product out on iOS and Android. And I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas, and here in San Francisco. I've worked with kids since I was 14 years old. In Kansas, you can start working. and I think it's just a couple different things, but the moment that really comes to mind is I was here driving a carpool for soccer practice, and it was the first day of soccer. I remember earlier seeing an email or something about a request to take an additional person in the car, and I was like, sure, okay, running around, great day. I get to school about 5 minutes before the bell lets out, and I'm looking through these emails and I'm like, who is this other child? And second graders, they don't always know what's going on. You have to be like on top of it outside the classroom. They might run around and get lost or get on the bus instead of waiting for someone. So panic starts to come in. I've already looked through 2 email chains, one of them consisting of 22 emails, all about this one soccer carpool. And then going through text messages, I finally find it like right before she's about to leave, and it's just so chaotic. Then you're putting on shin guards, and I can't find the address to the soccer field. And it's madness. In this day of technology, why is there not a simple tool to help parents just stay on the same page about the information? If you think about it, you have about 6 trips a day you have to organize. It's like asking a business professional to do all their business meetings just using paper calendar, email, and text messages. People show up wrong time, wrong place all the time. It's messy. And I went out to find a tool, and there wasn't one available. And the more I looked into the problem, the more I fell in love with it, because it doesn't just help families get back time. You can get 30 hours of your life back a month. It reduces traffic, it helps the environment, and I just had to build it. Lots of trial and error. You're so excited when you find this idea, and for me, I have a science background. I like to research everything and come up with a plan for everything, I think, kind of before diving in. And I wanted to make sure it was a problem that when the going gets tough, I was still passionate enough about it to continue going. So I just kept reading, and then I kept finding more and more ways in which a simple solution would just help different industries. So I just fell more in love with it. And then it's about finding people and building a product. For me, I started with the product and then talking to people. So I spoke with parents. I wanted to hear every pain point. So I just said, do you carpool? If so, why? And tell me about the carpool process. And then if you don't carpool, why don't you carpool? So I just really wanted to understand the user. Our other potential user is schools. Schools have to deal with pickup and drop off. So I wanted to know, how do I work with schools and how can I partner with schools? So I spoke with as many schools as possible from different levels, admins and teachers. And then I started just talking to people from a city level, and I stumbled across this program called Safe Routes to School, which is a government-funded program that their whole entire job is to make sure kids get safely to school. And I learned a lot from them, and they're one of our partners here in San Francisco. So I just started talking to people, and I wanted to learn as much as possible about the landscape. And then it goes into taking what you know and figuring out what exactly your product has to do. So started developing out those features and drawing it out. And I have notepads full of how the product should look and feel and defining what it needs to do. And then it's taking your product and using it. You have to use it. So I drove lots of carpools. I spoke with parents. I tested it out because no matter how much you think through something and it looks amazing on paper, when you get it into the real world, you're like, what was I thinking? This does not work. And that takes a couple months of going through and really taking this complex problem and simplifying it and learning as much as possible. Let's see. Some days, I actually think carpooling is more enjoyable than driving siblings around. You learn, siblings fight in the car. Well, actually, one time I'm stuck in traffic after a long day. It's like a 45-minute drive. Brother takes sister's shoe off and is holding it out Vanessa and just like threatening to drop the shoe in the middle of the street. Sister's crying, and I'm just like, this is Thursday. After a long week, you just can't handle it. And you realize there's just so much BS you can handle in 1 week, and then you just want to snap. That was a snapping moment. I held it in, but I was just like, ah! And then when you drive a carpool, they're with your friends. And I have had the silliest, goofiest rides driving when they're with their friends because they'll have these wonderful conversations. You get to learn about their day. It's full of laughter. Driving to soccer carpool, like you have 3 girls that just want to listen to Shakira, and like they're dancing and getting ready for practice, and they're talking about things that they did during the school day, and you learn rather than nothing. I did nothing today. I learned nothing today. So it really, I think, just facilitates better quality time with kids as well. So they're focused on the 18 and over demographic. There are very unique needs that are needed for the under 18 demographic, and it basically boils down to a business perspective, which is if you have paid drivers, you get into this very detailed insurance cost and liability costs. So the way they're doing their business is essentially a taxi service, an on-demand taxi service. What we're building is a parent helping parent community. So it's different. Could they get into this space? I know they've been trying and it hasn't worked out. I think they would have to have a completely separate product, really built around trust and security. It's been tough. That being said, I've never been a man in Silicon Valley. So I think just starting a company in general is hard. Starting a company when you don't come from Stanford and you don't have a network is harder. Not having worked at Google or a top company here in the Valley, it's even harder. So I have a lot stacked against me, I should say, from the odds. If you look at your standard path forward, someone goes to Stanford, out of a dorm room, they've created something, you have your Stanford professor network, which leads into your VC network, and it's just a very, you have a network. It really comes down to, it's what you know and who you know is very important. And if you're building what you know and who you know from scratch, you've got to have a lot of passion and a lot of grit to get there and just keep knocking on doors. There have been some wonderful things that I've seen happening. One is Lisa Lambert has started Upward, which is this great community of executive women, and it's all about helping each other out. There's mentors. There's a lack of mentors just for women in the professional side, whether it's tech or not tech. I think there's a lot less in tech than other areas, but in my experience, there's not someone or a place where you can reach out to and get that mentorship. you're stumbling along, and maybe it's my imagination, maybe it's real, but I feel like, I shouldn't call them boys, but they are boys, just reach out and they have this person to guide them and help them out along the way and teach them. And when I was getting started, even the female groups here, it was just like, oh, I've made it, so let me bash you down. And I'm looking for help on how do I put together a deck? I really wanted someone to hold my hand and help me, and I can learn, and I'll talk to you about my idea. Here's what I've learned from research. How do I put this together? It took me 1.5 years to find a mentor. And all the female groups I went to were very just door closed in your face. So I believe what's really needed and where I hope it goes is we become mentors to each other rather than competing. And I think that needs to start now, and I think it is happening, and we just need to continue on and build a support club rather than I made it, here's what I know. I would find a mentor, but it's so hard. It took me 1.5 years, and I feel like I had to prove myself. I had to reach a certain standpoint before people would take me seriously. And even now, I would reach out to all your friends. Don't be scared to ask for help. I think something I've really learned along the way is, because I think we're in a society where you are taught to do things on your own. It's a very individual type society, and that you don't necessarily have that support. It's hard to ask for help. I'm getting better and learning every day, but ask for help. Don't be afraid to show your flaws or what you don't know, and talk to as many people as possible and see what you can learn along the way.